Ilyas bin Salama says that his father states we along with Allah's Apostle ﷺ arrived at Hudaybiyah. We then numbered 1400 and there was so scarcity of water that even 50 goats could not get satiated. Allah's Apostle ﷺ sat down on the parapet of the well. He ﷺ either made invocation or put his saliva into it, so the water surged up. We ourselves drank the water as well as watering our animals. He ﷺ then sat down at the base of the tree and summoned all of us for an oath of allegiance. I was the first amongst the people to swear an oath of allegiance to him. Then other people started swearing an oath of allegiance to him until when half of the people had sworn allegiance to him. He ﷺ said, O Salama, give me the pledge of allegiance. I submitted, O Allah's Apostle ﷺ, I have sworn allegiance before all. He ﷺ said, do it again. Hazrat Ibn Aqwa says Allah's Apostle ﷺ saw that I had no weapons, so he ﷺ granted me a shield. Then he ﷺ started taking the pledge of allegiance again until when all people had sworn the pledge of allegiance. He ﷺ said, O Salama, won't you give me the pledge of allegiance? I submitted, O Allah's Apostle ﷺ. Firstly, I gave you the pledge of allegiance before all the secondly, in the mid of the second pledge. He ﷺ said again for a third time, so I swore an oath of allegiance to him for a third time. He ﷺ then said to me, where is your shield which I gave you? I submitted, O Allah's Apostle ﷺ, my uncle Amir had no weapon, so I gave him that shield. Allah's Apostle ﷺ laughed and said, you are like the person who invoked, O Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, grant me a friend who is dearer to me than my life. Then the polytheists dispatched the message of peace to us, and even people from each side started to move from one side to the other, and we made peace. Hazrat Ibn Aqwa said, I was a dependent on Hazrat Talha bin Ubaidullah. I watered his horse and rubbed it, served him, and partook food with him, for I, leaving my family and property, emigrated to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and His Apostle ﷺ. When we made peace with the Makkans and we started meeting one another, I made towards a tree, swept the thorns under it and lay down at its base. Meanwhile, 4 people amongst the polytheists of Makkah Mukarramah came and started saying something about Allah's Apostle ﷺ. I got furious at them and went and lay down under another tree. They hung their weapons and lay down. Meanwhile, a voice came from the depression of the valley. O emigrants, Ibn Zunaym has been killed. Hearing it, I drew my sword and attacked those 4 sleeping people, captured their weapons, and made a bundle of them and put it on my hand. I then said, by him who has conferred honor on Hazrat Muhammad S.A.W., whoever of you raises his head, I will sever that part of his body which contains his eyes. I then drove them to Allah's Apostle ﷺ. On the other side, my uncle Hazrat Amir radiyallahu anhu brought a man of the Abalat tribe, driving him along with 70 polytheists. The name of that person was Mikraz. Hazrat Amir radiyallahu anhu was riding a horse having loose covering on its back. Looking at him, Allah's Apostle ﷺ said, release them. Sin and its reputation have started from their side. Allah's Apostle ﷺ forgave them, and Allah Jalla Jalaluhu whereupon revealed these words, and it is He who has restrained their hands from you and has restrained your hands from them in the valley of Makkah Mukarramah, after He had given you control over them. Surah Fatah verse 24. We then set out to go back to Medina Munawwara. On the way back, we led over at a place where there was a mountain which intervened between us and the polytheists of Banu Lihan. The Prophet ﷺ made supplication of pardon for him who will climb the mountain and keep watch for the Prophet ﷺ and his companions radiyallahu anhum. Hazrat Salama radiyallahu anhu says that night I ascended that mountain 2 or 3 times. When we reached Medina Munawwara, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam dispatched his camels along with Rabah, his slave. I as well went along those camels, riding Hazrat Talha's horse. When the day dawned, Abdur Rahman Fadari looted the camels of Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam and drove them all and killed his shepherd. Hazrat Ibn Aqwa says that he said, O Rabah, take this horse and take it to Hazrat Talha bin Ubaidullah and apprise Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the polytheists have looted his she-camels. I then stood on a hillock, faced Medina Munawwara, and shouted aloud thrice, Ya Sabaha. I then proceeded forward shooting arrows at them and reciting battle cry. I was saying, I am the son of Aqwa, and it is the day of annihilation of the mean. I would confront each of them, shoot arrow at him, and the arrow would pierce through his shoulder, and then I would say, take it, I am the son of Aqwa, and it is the day of annihilation of the mean by Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. I kept shooting arrows at them and rendering them wounded. When any horse rider amongst them would come to me, I would make towards the tree, set down at its base, and then I would make him wounded until they entered a narrow path from the place where the mountain had narrowed. I ascended a mountain and started pelting stones at them. I kept chasing them until I overstepped each camel that Allah Jalla Jalaluhu had created as the mount of Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They left me and the camels, but I continued chasing them, shooting arrows at them, and they even dropped more than 30 chadors and 30 lances to lighten the burden. Whatever thing they would throw away, I would put a stone on it for identification, so that Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions radiyallahu anhum would identify it. They went on and reached a glen, and so, the son of Badr Fadari, also reached there. As soon as they all sat down to eat lunch, I reached the top of the mountain. The Fazari said, Who is watching us? They replied, We have received much persecution at his hand. By Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, he has been shooting arrows at us since dawn until he snatched whatever we had. Fazari said, 4 people of you should go to him. Then 4 of them started climbing the mountain to come to me. When they came so close to me that they could hear me, I said, Do you know me, who I am? They replied, No, who are you? I said, I am Salama bin Aqwa. By him who has conferred honor upon Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I will make any of you the target of my arrow when I wish, and none of you can make me a target. One of them said, I think so. Hazrat Ibn Aqwa said, They then returned. I did not leave my place until I caught the glimpse of the riders of Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They had hidden in the trees, and Hazrat Akhram Asadi was in the lead. Hazrat Abu Qatada Ansari radiyallahu anhu was behind him, and he was followed by Hazrat Miqdad bin Aswad Kindi. I held the rein of Hazrat Akhram's horse. Hazrat Ibn Aqwa said, Those burglars started fleeing, turning their backs. I said, O Akhram, be careful, lest they should cause you any harm, until Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his riders may come and meet you. He replied, O Salama, if you believe in Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and the hereafter, and if you believe that paradise is a fact and hell is a fact, do not intervene between me and the martyrdom. Hazrat Ibn Aqwa said, I then got aside. Then he and Abdur Rahman Fadari started combating. Abdur Rahman's horse was wounded by Hazrat Akhram. Abdur Rahman Fazari attacked Hazrat Akhram with a lance and martyred him, and mounted on his horse. Right then, the night of Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Abu Qatada radiyallahu anhu came and lanced Abdur Rahman Fazari to death. By him who bestowed honor on Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I kept chasing them and running after them on foot until none was visible to me from behind, and none of Hazrat Muhammad's companions sighted me, nor could I see the dust raised by them until a little while before the sunset. They reached a body of water. The name of that spring was Dhu Qarad. They were gasping for water and reached there to drink water. Then they saw me coming running. At last I made them run away, and they could not drink even a single drop of water. Now they ran towards a slope. I also ran behind them. reached near one of them and shot an arrow at his shoulder, which passed through his shoulder. I said, "Take it. I am the son of Aqwa. It is day for the annihilation of the mean." He said, "May his mother weep over him. Is it Aqwa who has been chasing us since morning?" I replied, "Yes, O the enemy of your life, it is the same Aqwa of yours who has been in your pursuit since morning." Hazrat ibn Aqwa said, "They left two horses at the mound, so I drove both horses to Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There Hazrat Amir met me. He had some milk in a leather bottle and water in a water skin. I performed ablution and consumed milk. I then entered the presence of Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam was near that body of water wherefrom I had driven the burglars away. I saw that Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam had captured all the camels as well as all those things which I had seized from the polytheists. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam had captured all lances and chadors. Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu slaughtered one of the she camels I had seized from them. He was roasting its liver and hump for Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hazrat ibn Aqwa radiallahu anhu says that he submitted, "O Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam, accord me permission to select 100 people from this army and follow those robbers, and I will not leave any of them alive to go to their people to convey them information." Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam laughed to such an extent that even his molars got visible in the light of the fire. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam then said, "O Salama, do you think you can do so?" I submitted, "Yes, by him who has conferred honor upon you." He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "They will be still at Ghatfan." Hazrat ibn Aqwa says, "In the meanwhile, a man came from Ghatfan and said, so and so slaughtered a camel for them. When they flayed it, they glimpsed dust. So they said, the assailant have come. Then ran away from there. However, when the day dawned, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, our best rider is Abu Qatada and our best foot soldier is Salama." Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam then granted me 2 shares, one of the rider and one of a footman. I combined both of them. Thereafter, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam settled me behind him on his Mount Adba while we were going back to Medina Munawwara. Among the helpers, there was a man who was unbeatable in race. He said, "Is there anyone who can race against me to Medina Munawwara?" He kept challenging again and again. When I heard his challenge, I said, "Do you not have any regard for any elderly person, and do not you have any consideration for any nobleman?" He replied, "I don't regard anyone save Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam." Hazrat ibn Aqwa says that he said to Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "May my parents be sacrificed for you. Let me compete against him." He sallallahu alaihi wasallam whereupon said, "Go if you wish so." I said to the helpers, "I am coming to you." I then turned my feet, jumped the mount and started running. When 1 or 2 ascents were left, I stopped for breath and then I again started running behind him. Again, when 1 or 2 ascents were left, I ascended and joined him. I gave him a punch between his shoulders and said, "By Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, now you will be overstepped." He replied, "I also think so." I then reached Medina Munawwara before him. Hazrat ibn Aqwa states, "By Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, we stayed only for 3 nights in Medina Munawwara. When we set out along Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam for Khaybar, and my uncle Hazrat Amir radiallahu anhu was reciting these poetic verses amidst the people, by Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, but for Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, we would not have been guided, neither we would have dispensed poor due, nor we would have performed the prayer, and we cannot do anything without your favor. So keep us steadfast while confronting the infidels, and send down tranquility upon us." Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Who is it?" He submitted, "I am Amir." He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "May Allah Jalla Jalaluhu pardon you." Hazrat ibn Aqwa radiallahu anhu says, that person would get martyred for whom Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam would seek pardon. Hazrat ibn Aqwa radiallahu anhu says that Hazrat Umar, while he was riding a camel, said, "O Allah's Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, why did you not let us get benefit from Amir?" When we reached Khaybar, their king Marhab came out reciting this battle cry, "All Khaybar know I am Marhab, armed with weapons, courageous and veteran. when the fire of war flares up. Hearing it, my uncle Amir came on the scene to confront him, reciting this war cry. Khaybar knows it well that I am Amir, fully armed with weapons, courageous, and one who plunges into battles. Hazrat ibn Aqwa narrated that the swords of both struck each other. Suddenly, Marhab's sword struck Hazrat Amir's shield. Hazrat Amir radiallahu anhu stopped in order to strike him with the sword, but the sword rebounded and hit him, due to which one vein of his arm got cut and he got martyred. Hazrat Salama radiallahu anhu says, when I came out, the Prophet's companions radiallahu anhum were saying, all the good deeds of Amir stand wasted, for he has killed himself. Hazrat ibn Aqwa says, I went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam weeping and submitted, O Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam, are the good deeds of Amir in vain? Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, who says it? I submitted, some of your companions are saying it. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever has said it has told a lie. He will earn a twofold reward. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam then dispatched me to Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, whose eyes were sore. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I will hand over this standard to him who will have love for Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and his apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Or he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whom Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and his apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam love. I then went to Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu and fetched him, whereas his eyes were still sore. I unshered him to Allah's apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam applied his saliva to his eyes, which thereupon recuperated. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu the standard. Marhab came out to combat with him, saying, Khaybar knows well that I am Marhab. I am armed with weapons, courageous and veteran. When the fire of fight flares up. In reply, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu said, I am the one whose mother named him Haider, a lion, who is awe-inspiring like the lions of the forest. I give a bigger measure in exchange of one saw of the people. Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu then struck on the head of Marhab and finished him. So the victory was won on account of him. This hadith has been mentioned in more detail with another authority. Sahih Muslim Hadees number 4654.